The Marvel Cinematic Universe is continuing on its cosmic adventures through Phase 4 and Phase 5. In terms of theatrical releases, the amount of films that are already confirmed with the release dates, coupled with those that we know are getting sequels, there are not many slots left for additional films. Saving this idea, however, is Disney+. We've long had rumors about a secret invasion type of event coming to the MCU. In fact, it was one of the proposed subtitles for Endgame before it was, well, Endgame. We're here to talk about Nova and Secret Invasion. Before we start though, I do want to thank you, whether it's your first time here or you're back for more for watching JLS Comics. Don't forget to subscribe because we do upload content each and every week exactly like this. Let's jump into the video. In a recent earnings call for Walt Disney, Bob Iger mentioned Loki, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then he said this: there are 7 other Marvel series in various stages of development or pre-production. We know most of them: She-Hulk, Hawkeye, What If, Ms. Marvel, and Moon Knight. That brings the total to 8, and this is important, really only brings us to the year 2022. Many of these will connect to their theatrical counterparts. Loki ties to Thor Love and Thunder, WandaVision ties directly to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier will have repercussions felt throughout the MCU, possibly even as early as Black Widow. There are rumors of both Ironheart, which would tie to MCU Avengers, and Valkyrie and Lady Sif rumblings, which of course would tie in with Thor Love and Thunder. Should they be true? But again, that brings us to 2022. Then there's the Blade, Hellstrom, Midnight Suns connection too, but those were a little farther out, especially given the small setbacks that we saw with Hulu. With all of that comes a couple of likely options for the remaining spots that Iger teased. Keep in mind the Mighty Marvel MCU method, which is this: introduce the characters, have their solo films and origins told out in feature films, and then have all the heroes come together for an ensemble film. We saw this with Avengers, we saw this with the Netflix shows, and the Defenders, and they had this planned for Hulu as well in the proposed series called The Offenders. It makes sense that this will follow suit on Disney Plus as well, following a series of solo events. So first, the Young Avengers. Haley Steinfeld is in talks to play Kate Bishop for the Hawkeye series, although this is stalled due to her non-compete with Apple, so they may find a replacement, but regardless, Kate is on the way. In WandaVision, we will be introduced to Billy Kaplan and Teddy. Teddy's a Skrull and will be monitored by a S.H.I.E.L.D. directorate called SWORD. There's a rumor that Elijah Bradley will be introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, although he probably won't be shown as Patriot this early, but we may get a boy named Elijah. Then of course we have Harley Keener from the Avengers and Iron Man films, and it's long been rumored that he will be playing Iron Lad, a younger version of the villain Kang the Conqueror. But during this time, or this series, he'll be part of the Young Avengers. Plot-wise, it follows as the Young Avengers formed after the Avengers were decimated at the hands of Scarlet Witch, who went absolutely mad. The next one is Thunderbolts. Both Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross and Baron Helmut Zemo will be appearing in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We saw Ghost and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Justin Hammer famously squared off against RDJ's Iron Man in an earlier film. Abomination appeared all the way back in the Incredible Hulk film, a soft opening, if you will, for the MCU franchise, generally considered so because of the change to Mark Ruffalo. However, Bill Hurt has been Thunderbolt Ross and has been making an appearance throughout the MCU story numerous times. After Thor Ragnarok, Kevin Feige did say that Abomination is in a prison somewhere, and I'm willing to bet he's talking about the Raft. Jolt is said to appear as our Songbird and the Leader. Lords of the Long Box says that the Beetle and Paladin are also slated for the team. Throw in Taskmaster if he makes it out of the Black Widow film alive, and even someone like US Agent. We could have a Suicide Squad style rotating roster type situation. Even if some of these don't pan out, we still have a full Thunderbolts roster, and with the theatrical slate more than full, and keep in mind this is a villains team, it would make sense for them to wind up as a limited series on the streaming platform, which would then have downstream, pun intended, effects on the MCU, including the cinematic side as a whole. The board is very much set for these two teams to show up, especially with everything beyond 2022 still unconfirmed. Keep in mind, it's all connected. When we hear MCU, when we read MCU online, it includes both streaming and theatrical. Disney Plus allows some slots to be cleared on the theatrical side for additional properties to release because, again, it's so full. During the Infinity War press tour, Kevin Feige was talking to comicbook.com and he said, quote, Nova is, if we have a big board with a bunch of characters that have more immediate potential, Nova is on that board. because of the connection to the Guardians universe, because there are more than one example to pull from in the comics that are interesting, and you're absolutely right, it was in the earliest drafts of Guardians of the Galaxy, end quote. Avengers Endgame kicked off the decimation of Xandar. We didn't see it happen, but Thanos had the Power Stone. Why wouldn't they show such a ferocious battle of Xandarians, the Nova Corps, Thanos and his Black Order? Well, the answer is to pave the way for Nova's solo. Nova was critical to an event called Secret Invasion, and it said that Tal's daughter from Captain Marvel will grow up to be Varanki, Queen of the Skrulls, who was also a critical component of the Secret Invasion event. The Skrulls were replacing too many people and trust was falling by the wayside. A secret cabal of heroes might be in order, those who trust each other, and Illuminati, perhaps. Anyway, just like Young Avengers and T-Bolts, the Secret Invasion story's groundwork has already been laid out. Keep in mind that Feige doesn't do one-for-one adaptations, and we look at Civil War as a perfect example of this. That was far different than the source material. Daniel Rickman said on his Patreon that there's a Secret Invasion series in the works that will lead to Captain Marvel 2. Plot threads started with the introduction of the Skrulls in the first Captain Marvel film, continued into Spider-Man Far From Home, where we saw the orbital space station known as Peak. Talos made his reappearance. It will continue with WandaVision as Sword monitors Teddy, aka Hulkling of the Young Avengers, as he lives here on Earth. This show could be in the style of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., a show about monitoring Skrulls from the perspective of a Sword agency. The Skrulls were flipped for their cinematic appearance and do not seem the villains that they are in the comic book. So looking at the newest rumor critically, it seems that the Secret Invasion rumors and the Sword series rumors are not only both true, but actually might be the same thing. And will come sometime during Phase 5. Sword will be monitoring the Skrulls, preventing a potential secret invasion. It's not a one-for-one adaptation. Now, there have been numerous Novas over the course of comic book history. Richard Rider is most appropriate for Captain Marvel 2 and his own solo film, where we'll see the Xandarian battle, the decimation of Xandar, the stealing of the Power Stone, as well as its interactions with Captain Marvel, and would include the World Mind via his helmet. Thanks, by the way, to Mikey Sutton for that piece of information. Sam Alexander would fit rather well with the Young Avengers type demographic of Disney Plus, and he too was a Nova. But now it's your turn. Head down to the comments section and let's continue the conversation there. Who do you think is on the way? Which teams, which events do you think are next up for the MCU? Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so you can be one of the first to know when we upload content just like this each and every week.